Right now, the crypto market is filled with rumors, speculation, and bold claims. One of the most shocking ideas spreading across the community is that Ripple could burn a massive portion of the total XRP supply. Some voices are even saying that half of all XRP could be destroyed, which would drastically reduce the total number of coins in circulation. This kind of move, if it ever happened, would change everything. Supply would drop instantly, and in theory, price could react very fast. That is why some people are already talking about extreme price targets like $10,000 per XRP. But is this real or just hype? To understand this situation, we first need to look at how XRP works and what role Ripple actually plays in it. Many people think Ripple fully controls XRP, but the reality is more complex. Yes, Ripple holds a large amount of XRP in escrow, but the network itself is separate. So when we hear claims like Ripple will burn half the supply, we need to ask important questions. Can they really do that? What would be the impact? And most importantly, what does this mean for you as an XRP holder or investor? Because in crypto, big headlines can move emotions fast, but smart investors always look deeper. What if I told you that one single move could completely change the future of XRP overnight? Imagine waking up and finding out that half of the total supply is gone, permanently removed from the market. Prices start reacting instantly, social media explodes, and suddenly everyone is talking about XRP hitting levels no one thought possible. But here's the real question. Is this a hidden strategy already in motion or just another wave of hype designed to shake out weak hands? Stay with me because what you're about to hear might completely change how you look at XRP. Welcome back to XRP On Moon, your daily source for the latest XRP news, updates, and deep analysis in simple and easy English. If you want to stay ahead in the crypto market and understand what's really happening behind the scenes, you are in the right place. Let's break this down in a clear and simple way. The idea of burning XRP is not new. In fact, a very small amount of XRP is already burned with every transaction as a fee. But this is extremely tiny and does not reduce supply in a big way. Now compare that to the claim we are hearing today. Burning half of the entire supply would mean removing tens of billions of XRP from existence. That is not a small change. That is a massive shift that would affect the entire market structure. But here is where things get interesting. Most of the XRP supply is locked in escrow by Ripple. These tokens are released slowly over time, so if Ripple wanted to burn a large portion, they would need to make a very serious decision that could impact their long-term strategy. And this is why many experts are divided. Some believe that reducing supply could push price higher due to scarcity. Others argue that such a move would damage trust and create uncertainty because investors want stability, not sudden extreme actions. At the same time, we also have to understand how price works. Price is not only about supply, it is also about demand, utility, and real-world use. Even if supply drops, the price will only go up if there is strong demand to match it. So when you hear numbers like $10,000 per XRP, you have to pause and think carefully. What kind of market conditions would be needed for that to happen? How much money would need to flow into XRP? These are the real questions smart investors ask. Right now, there is no official confirmation from Ripple that such a massive burn is planned. That means this is still speculation. And in crypto, speculation can be powerful, but it can also be dangerous if you don't stay informed. To move forward, we need to answer one of the most important questions behind this entire claim. Does Ripple actually have the power to burn half of the total XRP supply? At first look, many people assume the answer is yes. After all, Ripple is closely connected to XRP and holds a very large amount of it in escrow accounts. These escrow holdings are released slowly over time, which gives Ripple a level of influence over circulating supply. But influence is not the same as total control. The XRP ledger is designed to be decentralized. That means no single party, including Ripple, can simply wake up one day and decide to destroy tokens across the entire network. Any major change to the system would require agreement from validators who maintain the network. This is a key point that many people miss when they hear bold headlines. Now let's think about the escrow itself. Ripple holds billions of XRP in locked accounts, and these funds are scheduled for release in a controlled manner. Technically, Ripple could choose to burn the XRP that it directly controls. That means tokens held in its own wallets or escrow could be removed if the company decided to do so. But here is where things become more complex. Burning such a large amount would not just be a technical decision. It would be a strategic move with serious consequences. Investors, institutions, and partners would all react to it. Some might see it as a positive step towards scarcity, while others could view it as a sign of instability or desperation. Another important factor is trust. In financial markets, trust is everything. If a company suddenly destroys a huge portion of supply, it raises questions. Why now? What is the real reason? Is there something happening behind the scenes? These questions can create uncertainty, and uncertainty often leads to volatility. At the same time, we have to consider how the market might react in the short term versus the long term. In the short term, a large burn could create excitement. Prices might spike as traders rush in, expecting a supply shock. Social media would likely amplify the move, bringing in even more attention. However, long-term growth is built on utility, adoption, and consistent development. XRP's main strength comes from its use in cross-border payments and financial systems. If that real-world usage continues to grow, demand can increase naturally over time. That kind of growth is often more stable than sudden supply shocks. There is also another angle that many people ignore. If Ripple burns a huge portion of its holdings, it reduces its own financial flexibility. Those XRP reserves are used to support partnerships, provide liquidity, and fund operations. Removing them could limit future opportunities. So when we look at the full picture, the idea of burning half the supply is not as simple as it sounds. Yes, Ripple has some level of control over its own holdings, but it does not control the entire network. And even if it did burn a large amount, the impact would not automatically guarantee a massive price increase. This is where many investors get trapped. They focus only on supply and forget the bigger picture. Price is driven by multiple factors working together, not just one dramatic event. Now let's move into the most important part of this entire discussion, and that is demand. Because no matter what happens with supply, the price of XRP cannot rise in a sustainable way without strong and real demand behind it. Many people hear the idea of a massive burn and immediately think the price will explode overnight. But in reality, the market does not work like that. Price moves when buyers are willing to pay higher prices, and that only happens when there is strong belief, real usage, or large capital entering the market. So let's break this down in a simple way. For XRP to reach extreme price levels like $10,000, the total market value of XRP would have to become incredibly large. We are talking about a level that would require massive global adoption, not just hype or short-term excitement. This brings us to the real use case of XRP. Unlike many other cryptocurrencies, XRP is focused on solving a real problem, which is cross-border payments. Ripple has been working with financial institutions to improve how money moves across countries. This is where the long-term value could come from. If banks, payment providers, and large institutions start using XRP at scale, then demand could increase naturally. That kind of demand is powerful because it is based on real-world usage, not just speculation. But this kind of growth does not happen overnight. It takes time, partnerships, and trust in the system. Now let's compare two scenarios. In the first scenario, XRP supply is suddenly reduced by a large burn. The market reacts with excitement, price jumps quickly, but then stabilizes because there is no strong long-term demand to support that price. In the second scenario, XRP adoption grows steadily. More institutions start using it, more transactions flow through the network, and demand increases over time. In this case, price growth may be slower, but it is more stable and sustainable. This is why experienced investors focus more on utility than hype. A sudden burn might create headlines, but real adoption builds long-term value. Another key factor is liquidity. For XRP to reach extremely high prices, there must be enough liquidity in the market to support large transactions. If the price goes too high without enough liquidity, it becomes difficult for big players to enter or exit positions. This can limit growth instead of supporting it. We also have to consider global competition. XRP is not the only digital asset targeting cross-border payments. There are other projects and even traditional financial systems improving their technology. So for XRP to dominate, it must continue to grow and stay ahead in terms of speed, cost, and reliability. Right now, there is no clear evidence that demand is at a level where a $10,000 price makes sense. That does not mean XRP cannot grow. It simply means that such extreme targets require extraordinary conditions, not just one major event like a supply burn. This is where many people get confused. They connect one big idea like burning supply directly to price without thinking about everything in between. But the market is much more complex than that. So the real focus should not be only on what might happen with supply, but on what is actually happening with adoption, partnerships, and real-world use. Now let's focus on something that most people ignore, but it plays a huge role in situations like this: market psychology. Because when headlines like "half the supply will be burned" start spreading, the biggest impact is not on the technology, but on how people think and react. In the crypto market, emotions move faster than facts. When investors hear shocking news about XRP, many of them do not stop to verify it. Instead, they react instantly. Some rush to buy because they fear missing out, while others panic and make quick decisions without understanding the full picture. This is known as FOMO, which means fear of missing out. It is one of the strongest forces in crypto. When people believe that something big is about to happen, they jump in quickly, often without doing proper research. This creates sudden spikes in price, even if the news is not confirmed. At the same time, there is another group of players in the market, often called smart money. These are experienced traders and institutions who understand how emotions drive price movements. When hype builds around a rumor, they may take advantage of it. They might buy early, ride the wave of excitement, and then sell when retail investors enter at higher prices. This creates a cycle that we see again and again. A strong headline appears, excitement builds, price moves up, and then reality catches up. If the news turns out to be false or exaggerated, the price can drop just as fast as it went up. Now let's connect this to the idea of Ripple burning a massive amount of XRP. Even without any official confirmation, just the rumor itself is enough to create attention. Social media posts, videos, and discussions start spreading the idea, and suddenly it feels real to many people. But here's the key point. The market does not reward emotions, it rewards patience and understanding. Investors who take time to analyze the situation are less likely to get trapped in hype cycles. They look for confirmed information, real data, and long-term trends instead of reacting to every headline. Another important factor is timing. Many new investors enter the market at the worst possible moment, which is during peak excitement. When everyone is talking about huge gains and extreme price targets, that is often when risk is highest, not because the asset is bad, but because expectations have become unrealistic. We also need to understand that rumors can spread very fast in crypto because there is no central control over information. Anyone can post a claim, and if it sounds exciting enough, it can go viral within hours. This makes it very important to verify sources before believing any major news. In the case of XRP, there has been no official statement confirming a plan to burn half the supply. That means everything we are discussing right now is based on speculation, not confirmed action. And in a market driven by speculation, it becomes even more important to stay grounded. This is where discipline comes in. Instead of chasing every new trend, smart investors focus on long-term fundamentals. They ask simple questions. Is the project growing? Is adoption increasing? Is there real utility behind the asset? Because at the end of the day, hype can move price for a short time, but only real value can sustain it. Now let's bring everything together and answer the most important question. What should you actually do in a situation like this? When you hear a headline claiming that Ripple will burn half of all XRP supply and the price could jump to extreme levels, the first step is simple. Slow down and think clearly. In crypto, the biggest mistakes usually happen when decisions are made too fast. From everything we have discussed, one thing should be clear. There is no official confirmation of such a massive burn. That means this is still speculation. And while speculation can create short-term opportunities, it also comes with high risk. So instead of reacting emotionally, focus on understanding the bigger picture. XRP's long-term value is not based on one single event. It is based on adoption, real-world use, and how well it solves problems in global payments. That is where the real strength of XRP lies. If you are already holding XRP, this is the time to stay disciplined. Avoid making decisions based only on hype. Ask yourself why you invested in the first place. If your reason was long-term growth and belief in the technology, then short-term rumors should not change your entire strategy. At the same time, it is also important to manage risk. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Crypto markets can move very fast, both up and down. Having a clear plan helps you stay in control even during high volatility. For those who are thinking about entering the market because of this news, be extra careful. Entering during hype can be risky because prices may already reflect the excitement. Smart investors look for strong setups, not just trending headlines. Another important step is to follow reliable information. Always check official announcements and trusted sources before believing any major claim. In the case of XRP, updates from Ripple or verified platforms carry much more weight than random posts or viral videos. We also need to remember that big price targets like $10,000 require more than just a supply change. They require massive global demand, strong liquidity, and wide adoption. These things take time to build. They do not happen instantly. So the smart approach is simple. Stay informed, stay patient, and stay realistic. Do not let extreme predictions control your decisions. The market rewards those who think long-term and stay consistent. Because at the end of the day, success in crypto is not about catching every hype wave. It is about making smart decisions again and again over time. This video is for information and educational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decision. The crypto market is highly risky, and you should only invest what you can afford to lose. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more simple and clear XRP updates, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. This is XRP On Moon, and I will see you in the next one.